All right, so you're thinking about learning to code in 2025.
Sounds like it.
Well, you're in the right place. We've got a ton of information about all the latest and greatest resources,
Yeah, tons.
but it can be a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Definitely.
That's what we're here for. That's what this whole deep dive is all about.
Yeah, we'll try to break it down and make sense of it all.
Make sense of it all. Exactly. So, first things first,
The demand for coding skills,
is still huge,
it's still huge, even though all this AI stuff is happening, which is
which is kind of wild.
it is kind of wild. I mean, you hear about it.
You hear about it taking over jobs.
Exactly. But coding is still,
It's more important than ever.
it's more important than ever. It's not just,
Yeah, and it's not just Silicon Valley either.
no, it's not just Silicon Valley. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Healthcare, finance, even the arts.
Seriously.
It's crazy.
But the good news is,
Oh, yeah, tell me the good news.
learning to code is so much easier now.
Oh, easier than when we were kids.
Way easier. There are so many resources out there.
And not just resources,
Yeah.
but it's like
Oh, yeah, the ways to learn.
the ways to learn have just exploded.
You don't have to sit in a stuffy classroom anymore.
Thank goodness.
You can learn online at your own pace.
At your own pace,
Yeah,
in your pajamas.
exactly.
Love it. Okay, so let's dive into some of these.
Let's dive into the interactive platforms first,
Interactive platforms, yeah. This is where
where you learn by doing.
you learn by doing. I love this idea. So I've heard some buzz about Algo Academy.
Oh, yeah, Algo Academy is cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. They don't just teach you to write code,
Oh, interesting.
they teach you to think like a coder, which is super important, especially for those tricky coding interviews.
Oh, yeah, those coding interviews.
Those are tough, like at Google, Amazon.
Everyone's heard about those.
Yeah, they're like legendary for being hard.
Super intimidating.
But Alco Academy, they really focus on teaching you the stuff those companies are looking for.
Like what kind of stuff?
Like problem-solving skills, algorithms.
Algorithms, yeah. I remember those from college. Not my favorite thing.
But you got to know them, and Algo Academy will help you.
Okay, so Algo Academy. But what if you...
Well, there's also Code Academy.
Right, Code Academy, they've been around forever.
Yeah, they're a classic for a reason.
But they're still good.
Oh, yeah, still great. They give you that instant feedback, which is really helpful.
And I think they have
Got a ton of different languages you can learn.
a ton of different languages. Okay,
How's Free Code Camp?
Oh, Free Code Camp. I love Free Code Camp.
And free is good, right?
Free's always good, especially when you're starting out.
And they've expanded their curriculum even more. They've got web development, machine learning,
Machine learning.
all sorts of cool stuff.
Cool stuff. Okay, so we've got Algo Academy, Code Academy, Free Code Camp.
3 great options for interactive learning.
They all sound really cool. I love this idea of
Learning by doing.
learning by doing. It's like you said.
It just makes sense, right?
It makes sense. You learn better when you're actually
Building something.
building something. Exactly. So what
Uh-huh.
about,
Well, what if you're someone who
yeah, what if you're someone who,
prefers a little more structure?
yeah, a little more guidance?
Maybe. That's where video-based learning comes in.
Oh, video-based learning,
Yeah.
like actual courses.
Yeah, like Coursera, Udemy, EDX.
I've heard of those.
They've got courses taught by university professors.
Really?
Yeah, industry experts.
So it's like,
It's like being in a real classroom.
but you're just at home
Exactly. At home, on your couch,
in your pajamas again.
you got it.
Yeah.
And you can find courses on anything.
Anything, like anything.
Pretty much. I even saw one on quantum computing the other day.
Whoa, quantum computing.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's a little advanced for me.
Maybe, but it's out there if you want it.
It's out there if you want it. And these courses, they give you,
Some of them offer certificates, which can be really helpful.
well, yeah, certificates. Those are good for your resume.
Definitely. And they can help you get a raise, a promotion.
So it's not just about learning for fun.
It can definitely help you in your career.
Okay, so video-based learning, that's a cool option. But what if you're someone who
Yeah, what if you're someone who,
wants something more hands-on,
like a boot camp?
like a coding boot camp? Are those still a thing in 2025?
Yeah, boot camps are still around, but they've evolved.
They've evolved. How so?
Well, they're a lot more flexible now.
Flexible. Like what kind of flexible?
You can do them part-time, online, even hybrid.
Hybrid, so like a mix of online and in-person.
Exactly. It's all about finding what fits your life.
So you don't have to quit your job and
No, you don't have to go all in.
you can ease into it.
You can ease into it. And a lot of them have.
Well, they're pretty intense though, right?
They are intense, yeah.
They're designed to
To get you job ready.
get you job ready fast. Okay, so what are some of the
Well, there's Lambda School.
Lambda School? I've heard of them.
They have these really comprehensive programs.
Comprehensive. So they cover
They cover a lot of ground.
a lot of ground. Okay.
And they have this income share agreement option.
Oh, income share agreement. So you don't have to pay up front.
Exactly. You pay them back once you get a job.
That's pretty cool. Takes the pressure off a little bit.
It does. And then there's Flatiron School.
Flatiron School.
They're really focused on the emerging tech,
Emerging tech. Like what?
like blockchain, AI.
Oh, wow. The cutting edge
Yeah,
stuff.
the stuff everyone's talking about.
Okay. So Flatiron School.
And they even use AI to help match their graduates with jobs.
AI job matching.
Pretty cool, huh?
That's pretty cool. So you're not just thrown out there.
No, they help you find the right fit.
The right fit. Love it. And then there's General Assembly,
General Assembly, the global powerhouse.
the global powerhouse of boot camp.
Like, that's them. And they've really expanded beyond just coding.
Oh, interesting.
They're teaching soft skills, entrepreneurship.
That's important too.
It is. You need more than just technical skills to succeed in tech.
You need to know how to,
You need to know how to communicate, how to work in a team,
all that good stuff.
all that good stuff. So yeah, boot camps are still a great option.
Okay, boot camps. So those are like the big, intense options.
They are.
But what if you're
What if you're busy?
busy? Yeah. Like, who isn't busy these days?
Exactly. That's where mobile apps come in.
Mobile apps, yeah. Like you can learn to code on your phone.
You got it. Learn on the go.
On the go. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So like during your commute?
During your commute, waiting in line, whenever you have a few minutes.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so what are some of the
Well, there's SoloLearn.
Solar,
They've got a ton of different courses
which is on your phone?
on your phone. And they even have coding competitions.
Oh, fun.
It's a fun way to test your skills.
And they have a big community.
Yeah, so you can connect with other learners.
Exactly. You can learn from each other.
Okay, SoloLearn.
And if you're really short on time,
like really, really short on time,
there's Mimo.
they break down coding into these little bite-sized lessons.
Oh, bite-sized. I like that.
You can do a lesson in like 5 minutes.
Wow. So no excuses.
No excuses.
No excuses. I love it. And
And have a really cool feature.
oh, tell me.
They integrate with wearable devices.
Wearable devices. You mean like
Smartwatches.
you can learn to code on your smartwatch?
You can. It's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing. Okay, so Mimo. And what about,
And Google's Grasshopper is still around.
oh yeah, Grasshopper. That was one of the first ones, right?
One of the first ones. Still really good for beginners.
And it's free.
It is free. It's a great way to get started.
Okay, so we've got interactive platforms, video-based learning, boot camps, mobile apps. What else is there?
Well, let's talk about gamification.
Gamification. You mean like games?
Games, yeah. Learning to code doesn't have to be boring.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
I was a little worried about that. So what kind of games are we talking about?
Well, there's Code Combat. They've stepped up their game.
Stepped up their game. I like what you did there.
I couldn't resist. But seriously, they've got more advanced concepts now.
Okay, so it's not just for beginners.
No, it's not just for beginners. They even have these virtual coding tournaments.
Virtual coding tournaments. Like esports for coders.
Exactly. You can compete against other players from all over the world.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is, but it's also a lot of fun.
Fun and intense.
The best of both worlds.
The best of both worlds. All right, Code Combat. What else?
And if you want something that's a little more realistic,
Realistic, okay.
there's Coding Game.
Coding.
They create these simulations of real-world coding challenges.
Oh, that's cool.
And they actually collaborate with tech companies.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a great way to get noticed by potential employers.
So it's not just a game.
It's more than just a game.
It's like a sneaky way to get a job,
Maybe. You still have to be good at coding, of course.
of course. All right, coding game.
And LeetCode has gotten into the gamification game, too,
Leet Code. That's the one that's known for being
for being really hard.
really hard, yeah. So it's not so hard anymore.
Well, it's still challenging, but they've added more beginner-friendly stuff.
Okay, that's good to know. So Leet Code's an option. What about
What about open source?
open source? Now that sounds a little intimidating.
It can be, but it's also an amazing way to learn.
How so?
Well, you get to work on real projects,
Real projects, like
like the ones people actually use.
wow. And you just jump in and
You can contribute to projects that interest you.
okay, so if I'm interested
In So you're interested in music?
music, yeah.
You could contribute to a project that's building a music app.
That's cool. So where do you find these projects?
Platforms like GitHub, Stack Overflow, Dev.to.
GitHub. I've heard of that.
It's the biggest platform for open source.
And it's just for like super experienced developers, right?
It used to be, but they've added a lot of features for beginners.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like mentorship programs.
And internship programs. That's cool.
And AI-powered code suggestions.
AI is everywhere these days.
It is. So yeah, GitHub is definitely worth checking out.
Okay, GitHub. And Stack Overflow, that's the one where you can
Ask questions.
ask questions, yeah, and get answers from
Other developers.
other developers. I use that all the time.
It's a lifesaver.
It is. And they have
They have a mentorship program too.
oh, cool. Everyone has a mentorship program these days.
It's a great way to connect with more experienced developers.
Okay, Stack Overflow
Yeah.
and Dev.to. What's that?
Dev.to is like a social network for
A
developers.
social network just for developers. That's cool.
It is. It's a really vibrant community.
So you can connect with other developers.
Connect, share your work, ask questions.
Sounds like a great way to learn and get feedback.
Exactly. And it's just a fun place to hang out.
Okay, Dev.to.
Mm,
So open source is definitely an option.
definitely.
But what about AI
AI is changing everything, including coding education,
in a good way?
in a good way. There are all these AI-powered coding assistants now.
Coding assistants. So like they help you write code.
They do. They offer suggestions, catch errors, even write code for you.
Write code for you. Wow, that's a little scary.
It can be. But it's also really helpful.
I guess depends on how you use it.
Exactly. It's
Right.
a tool.
Tool, yeah.
Like any tool. You can use it for good or for evil.
Okay, so what are some of the
Well, there's GitHub Copilot.
GitHub Copilot? That's from GitHub, right?
Yep. It's built right into GitHub.
And it's like a
It's like a coding buddy.
coding buddy. I like that.
It's always there to help you out.
Okay, GitHub Copilot.
And there's Tabnine.
Tab9.
They're known for their really accurate code completions.
Code completions.
So, like, you start typing some code, and it suggests what to type next.
Oh, that's cool.
It saves you a lot of time in typing.
And it can help you avoid errors.
Exactly. It's like having a spell checker for code.
A spell checker for code. I like that.
And Tabnine is really good at catching bugs.
Bugs. Those are the worst.
They are. They can be really frustrating to find and fix.
So Tab9 can help with that.
It can. It can save you a lot of headaches.
Okay, Tab9.
And then there's Kite.
Kite.
They've gone all in on AI.
All in. Like, how so?
They offer code completions, interactive tutorials,
Tutorials?
even real-time code reviews.
Real-time code review. So, like, as you're writing code?
As you're writing code, it's giving you feedback.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
It is. But it's also really helpful.
I can see how that would be helpful.
It's like having a personal coding coach.
A personal coding coach in your computer.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. So AI is definitely
AI is definitely changing the game.
changing the game. It's like
It's like having a superpower.
a superpower. I like that. So we've got interactive platforms, video-based learning, boot camps, mobile apps, AI-powered assistants. Is there anything else?
There is. We haven't even talked about books yet.
Books? You mean like actual books?
Actual books. They're still a great resource.
Really? I thought those were kind of,
Old-fashioned.
yeah, old-fashioned. But you're saying they're still relevant.
They are. There are a lot of classic coding books that have been updated for 2025.
Updated.
Yeah, they've been revised to include the latest trends and technologies.
Oh, that makes sense. So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The timeless wisdom of the classics.
Plus the latest and greatest.
Plus the latest and greatest. It's a win-win.
Okay, so books are still an option. And
And if you like to multitask,
multitask. Yeah, who doesn't these days?
there are podcasts.
Podcasts, like for learning to code.
For learning to code, you can listen to them while you're doing other stuff.
Like while you're working out.
Working out, walking the dog, whatever.
Oh, I love that. Sneaking in a little learning.
Exactly.
So are there any good ones for beginners?
There are a few.
Okay, tell me about them.
Well, there's Code Newbie.
Code Newbie.
They've been around for a while. They do these really relatable interviews.
Relatable, so like I can actually understand them.
You can understand them. They talk to real people who are learning to code.
Okay, that sounds good.
And they've added some interactive elements too.
Interactive elements, like what?
Like coding challenges that you can do along with the podcast.
Oh, that's cool. So it's not just passive listening.
No, it's more engaging.
Engaging. I like that. Okay, Code Newbie. What else?
And if you're interested in web development,
Web development, yeah, that's a big one.
there's Syntax.
Syntax.
They do a good mix of beginner and advanced content.
So there's something for everyone.
There's something for everyone. And they do these live coding sessions.
Live coding sessions. What's that?
They basically code live on the podcast.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
You can watch them build real projects
Real time.
in real time. It's a great way to see how it's done.
Okay, Syntax.
And if you're looking for inspiration,
Inspiration, yeah. I need some of that.
there's Learn to Code with Me.
Learn to code with me.
They interview people who have made career changes into tech,
Oh, that's cool. So people who are like,
who are lawyers, teachers, whatever.
and they decided to learn to code.
Exactly. And they share their stories.
That's really inspiring. It's like, if they can do it,
If they can do it, anyone can.
anyone can. Okay, learn to code with me. So we've got
We've got a lot of options.
a lot of options: interactive platforms, video-based learning, boot camps, mobile apps, AI-powered assistants, books, podcasts.
It's a whole coding universe out there.
It is. It's pretty amazing.
But it can be overwhelming.
Definitely overwhelming. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first step is
Yeah, what's the first step?
to figure out what you want to do with code.
What I want to do with code. Like, what kind of problems do I want to solve?
Exactly. What are your goals?
My goals. Okay, that's a good starting point.
It is. Once you know your goals,
Yeah, once I know my goals,
then you can start exploring the resources that will help you achieve them.
the resources that will help me achieve them. Okay, that makes sense. So I guess the first step is to
Do a little soul searching.
a little soul searching. I like that. Figure out what I want to do with my life.
Not your whole life, just the coding part of it.
The coding part of it. Okay,
Yes.
that's manageable.
It is. And
Then the fun begins.
then the fun begins. The world of coding is your oyster.
My oyster. Like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about all sorts of amazing resources for learning to code in 2025,
From the classic to the cutting edge.
from the classic to the cutting edge. But what's the key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that
Yeah, what's the key takeaway?
learning to code is more accessible than ever.
More accessible than ever. So it's not just for
It's not just for geniuses or tech whizzes.
anyone can learn to code.
Anyone can learn to code if you're willing to put in the work.
If you're willing to put in the work,
And if you find the right resource.
the right resources. The resources that work for you.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
No one size fits all. I like that. So if you're feeling inspired,
If you're ready to dive into the world of code,
dive into the world of code. Don't wait another minute.
get out there and start exploring.
Start exploring.
Have fun.
Have fun. That's the most important part, right?
Absolutely. Coding should be enjoyable.
Enjoyable. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into coding resources for 2025,
We have
but there's still more to come.
much more.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into some of these amazing resources and explore some of the latest trends in coding education.
It's going to be exciting.
It is going to be exciting, so buckle up and get ready for the ride.
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back soon. See you then.
See you then.
Okay, so we talked about mobile apps for learning to code. It's like
It's like having a coding school in your pocket.
in your pocket. I love that idea. So we left off talking about Solo Learn.
Right. Solo Learn.
They have a ton of content, right?
They do. A huge library of courses.
And it's all on your phone?
all on your phone. You can learn anywhere, anytime.
I love that. And they have
Those
those
competitions.
coding competitions. Yeah, those sound fun.
They are fun. A good way to test your skills and see how you stack up against other learners.
Stack up, yeah. And I think it's a good way to
stay motivated.
stay motivated, yeah. Because sometimes it's hard to...
To keep going when you're learning on your own.
Exactly. It's
Well,
nice to have that community aspect.
It is. And Solo Learn has a great community.
Okay, Solo Learn. What
Yeah.
about
What about Mimo?
Mimo, right? They're the ones with the
Bite-sized lessons.
bite-sized lessons, yeah. For those of us who are
Super busy.
super busy, like you only have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, you can squeeze in a lesson.
That's amazing. So no excuses.
Who excuses?
And they have that cool feature where you can
Learn on your smartwatch.
learn on your smartwatch. Mind blown.
It's pretty wild. Technology is amazing.
It is. It's like, who would have thought you could learn to code on your watch?
Not me. But here we are.
Here we are. Okay, so Mimo, what else?
Well, we can't forget about Google's Grasshopper.
Oh yeah, Grasshopper. That was one of the first ones, right?
One of the first. Still going strong.
And it's still
Free.
free. Free, yeah. Always a good thing.
Always a good thing. Especially for beginners.
Especially for beginners. Okay, so we've got interactive platforms, video courses, boot camps, mobile apps. What else is out there?
Well, learning to code doesn't have to be all serious business.
Oh, good. Because I'm not a very serious person.
Me neither. That's why I love gamification.
Gamification. We talked about that a little bit in the last episode.
Oh, did. But there's so much more to explore.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? Like actual games.
Actual games. Games that teach you to code.
That sounds way more fun than reading a textbook.
Way more fun. And there are some really great ones out there.
Okay, tell me about them.
Well, there's Code Combat. They've really stepped up their game.
Stepped up their game. I see what you did there.
I couldn't resist.
Mm.
But seriously, they've expanded their platform to include more advanced concepts.
Okay, so it's not just for beginners anymore.
Nope. It's for everyone.
Okay.
And they have these awesome virtual coding tournaments.
Virtual coding tournaments? That sounds intense.
It is, but it's also a great way to
To test your skills.
test your skills, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and to connect with other coders.
So it's like esports for coders.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, Code Combat. What else?
And if you're looking for something that's a little more grounded in reality,
Branded in reality. Okay.
there's Coding Game.
Code Game.
They create these really realistic simulations of real-world coding challenges.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like you're actually working on a real project.
Kind of. It's a good way to get a feel for what it's like to be a professional coder.
And I heard they
They collaborate with tech companies.
collaborate with tech companies, yeah. So you could potentially
Get noticed by
more
recruiters.
by a recruiter.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not just a game. It's like a
A job interview in disguise.
job interview in disguise.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, Code and Game. What about
What about Leet Code?
Leet Code? That's the one that's known for being super hard, right?
It is, but they've added some more beginner-friendly stuff lately.
Oh, really? So they're trying to be more accessible.
They are. They realize that not everyone is a coding ninja.
Not everyone's a coding ninja. I'm definitely not.
Me neither. But that's okay. We can still learn and have fun.
Learn and have fun. I like that. Okay, so we've got Code Combat, Code and Game, Lead Code. What else is there in the world of gamification?
Well, we've talked about games that specifically teach you to code,
Right.
but there are also games that can help you develop the skills you need to be a good coder.
Oh, interesting. Like what kind of skills?
Like problem-solving skills, logical thinking, creativity.
Okay, those are all important.
They are. And a lot of games can help you develop those skills without you even realizing it.
Sneaking in some learning.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to play games. It's good for your brain.
Good for your brain and good for your coding skills.
Exactly.
Okay, so gamification is definitely an option. What about
What about open source projects?
open source projects? Now, those sound a little intimidating.
They can be, but they're also an incredible way to learn.
How so?
Well, you get to work on real-world projects with real developers.
Real developers, like the pros.
Pros, you can learn from the best.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So where do you find these open source projects?
There are a few different platforms. GitHub is the biggest one.
GitHub. I've heard of that, but isn't that just for like super experienced developers?
It used to be, but they've added a lot of features for beginners lately.
Oh, really? Like what?
Like mentorship programs, you can get paired up with a more experienced developer who can guide you.
That's cool. So it's like having a coding buddy.
Exactly. And they also have AI-powered code suggestions.
AI is everywhere these days.
It is, but it can be really helpful, especially for beginners.
Okay, so GitHub is an option. What about
What about Stack Overflow?
Stack Overflow? That's the one where you can ask questions and get answers from other developers, right?
That's the one. It's an amazing resource.
I use it all the time.
Me too. It's a lifesaver. And they also have a mentorship program now.
Everyone has a mentorship program these days.
It's a great way to connect with other developers and learn from their experience.
Okay, Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
And what about Dev.to? What's that?
Dev.to is kind of like a social network for developers.
A social network just for developers. That's cool.
It is. It's a really vibrant community.
So you can connect with other developers, share your work, ask questions.
Exactly. It's a great place to learn and grow.
Okay, Dev.to. So open source projects are definitely an option.
Definitely. Don't be afraid to jump in and get your hands dirty.
Get my hands dirty. I like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to talk about something that's really exciting to me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
AI-powered coding assistants.
Ah, yes. AI is changing everything, including coding education.
It's almost a little scary how fast AI is advancing.
It is, but it's also really exciting. There's so much potential.
Okay, so tell me about these coding assistants. Like, what do they actually do?
Well, they can do a lot of things. They can offer suggestions, catch errors, even write code for you.
Write code for me. Wow. That's a little freaky.
It can be, but it's also really helpful.
I guess it depends on how you use it.
Exactly. It's a tool, just like any other tool.
Okay, so what are some of the
Well, there's GitHub Copilot. That's one of the most popular ones.
GitHub Copilot? That's from GitHub, right?
Yep, it's built right into GitHub.
And it's like
It's like a coding buddy.
a coding buddy. I like that. So it's always there to help you out.
Exactly. It can offer suggestions, complete your code, even help you debug.
Debug, that's the worst part.
It is. But Copilot can make it a lot easier.
Okay, GitHub Copilot.
What else? And there's Tabnine. They're known for their really accurate code completion.
Code completions. So like it predicts what you're going to type next.
Exactly. It can save you a lot of time in typing.
And it can help you avoid errors.
Exactly. It's like having a spell checker for code.
A spell checker for code. I like that. Okay, tab 9,
And then there's Kite.
Kite.
They've gone all in on AI.
All in. Like how so?
They offer code completions, interactive tutorials, real-time code reviews.
Real-time code reviews. Wow. So it's like having a teacher looking over your shoulder.
Kind of. It can be really helpful to get that instant feedback.
Okay, Kate. So AI is
The
definitely
AI is definitely changing the game.
changing the game. It's like
It's like having a superpower.
a superpower. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay, so we've talked about interactive platforms, video courses, boot camps, mobile apps, AI-powered assistants. What else is there?
Well, with all this amazing technology, it's easy to forget about the basics.
The basics, like what?
Like books,
Books? You mean like actual physical books?
actual physical books. They're still a great resource.
Really? I thought those were kind of old-fashioned.
They can be, but there are a lot of classic coding books that have been updated for 2025.
Updated. So they're not just sitting on a shelf gathering dust.
Nope, they've been revised and updated to include the latest trends and technologies.
Oh, that's cool. So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
timeless wisdom of the classics, plus the latest and greatest.
I like that. So what are some of these updated classics?
Well, there's code.
Just code.
Just code. It's a great book for understanding the fundamentals of how computers work.
Okay, so that's like a good starting point.
It is. And then there's Python Crash Course.
Python Crash Course. That sounds a little intense.
It's not as bad as it sounds. It's a really practical guide to learning Python.
Python. That's a popular language.
Very popular. And it's relatively easy to learn.
Okay, so Python Crash Course and
Then there's Eloquent JavaScript.
Eloquent JavaScript.
That's a great book for mastering JavaScript.
JavaScript, that's the language of the web, right?
It is. If you want to build websites, you need to know JavaScript.
Okay, so Eloquent JavaScript. So those are some of the updated classics?
They are.
Okay, so we've got books. What else?
Well, if you like to multitask,
Multitask, yeah. Who doesn't these days?
there are podcasts.
Podcasts. Like for learning to code.
For learning to code, you can listen to them while you're commuting, working out, doing chores.
Oh, I love that. Sneaking in some learning.
Exactly. And there's some really great coding podcasts out there.
Okay, what are some of your favorites?
Well, there's Code Newbie.
Code Newbie. We talked about that one earlier.
We
remember?
did, but it's worth mentioning again. It's a great podcast for beginners.
And they have those
Interactive elements.
interactive elements, yeah, where
Yeah.
you can do coding challenges along with the podcast.
Exactly. It's a really engaging way to learn.
Okay, Code Newbie. What else?
And if you're interested in web development,
That's good to Bellway, yeah.
there's Syntax.
Syn-
They do a good mix of beginner and advanced content.
Okay, so something for everyone.
Something for everyone. And they do live coding sessions.
Live coding sessions. That sounds cool.
It is. You can watch them build real projects in real time.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Okay, Syntax.
And if you're looking for inspiration,
Inspiration, yeah.
there's Learn to Code with Me.
Learn to code with me.
They interview people who have made career changes into tech.
Oh, that's cool. So people who are like,
Lawyers, teachers, whatever.
and they decided to learn to code.
Exactly. And they share their stories, their struggles, their tips for success.
That's really inspiring. It's like, if they can do it,
Anyone can do it.
anyone can do it. Okay, learn to code with me. So those are some of your favorite coding podcasts.
They are.
Okay, so we've got books, podcasts, all sorts of amazing resources for learning to code.
You do.
But what about the really futuristic stuff? Like, what's on the horizon for coding education?
Well, get ready to have your mind blown.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because we're talking about VR and AR.
VR and AR. Virtual reality and augmented reality.
Exactly. They're going to revolutionize coding education.
Wow. Okay, tell me more.
Well, imagine learning to code in a fully immersive 3D environment.
Whoa. That's crazy.
It is. But it's also incredibly exciting. Platforms like CoSpace are creating these amazing virtual worlds where you can interact with your code in a way that's never been possible before.
So it's like you're actually inside the code?
Kind of. It's a lot more intuitive and engaging than just staring at a screen.
I can imagine. And I bet it would be especially helpful for visual learners.
Absolutely. And it's not just for beginners either. CoSpace and other platforms are using VR for all sorts of coding education, from web development to data visualization.
Sounds like the future of coding education is going to be
Totally immersive.
totally immersive. I love that. But VR is still pretty expensive, right?
It is, but the prices are coming down.
Oh, good. Because I'm not sure I can afford to buy a VR headset just to learn to code.
You might not have to. There are also AR apps that can bring coding to life.
AR apps. So you can use your phone or tablet?
Exactly. You can point your device at a real-world object and see code overlaid on top of it.
Whoa. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's a great way to learn about the code that's all around us.
Okay, so VR and AR are definitely on the horizon for coding education.
They are. It's going to be an exciting ride.
I can't wait. So we've covered a lot of ground in this episode.
We have,
Yeah.
from the basics to the futuristic.
From the basics to the futuristic. But what's the key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that
Yeah. What's the key takeaway?
learning to code is more accessible than ever.
More accessible than ever. So it's not just for
It's not just for geniuses or tech whizzes.
anyone can learn to code
Anyone can learn to code if you're willing to put in the work.
if you're willing to put in the work
And if you find the right resources.
the right resources. The resources that work for you.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
And no one size fits all. I like that. So if you're feeling inspired,
If you're ready to dive into the world of code,
dive into the world of code. Don't wait another minute.
get out there and start exploring.
Start exploring.
And have fun.
Have fun. That's the most important part, right?
Absolutely. Coding should be enjoyable.
Enjoyable. All right, so that's it for part 2 of our deep dive into coding resources for 2025.
But there's still more to come.
Much more. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore even more amazing resources and dive into some of the latest trends in coding education.
It's going to be epic.
It is going to be epic, so buckle up and get ready for the ride.
See you soon.
See you soon. Okay, so we've talked about VR and AR.
Pretty mind-blowing stuff, right?
It is. It really is.
But even with all that, sometimes
Yeah,
you just need to get back to basics.
back to basics. Yeah, I hear you.
And that means
Hit the books.
hitting the books, exactly.
So are there any books you recommend for,
For someone who's just starting out,
just starting out in 2025?
absolutely there are tons of great resources out there.
Like, what are some of your favorites?
Well, one that I always recommend is Code by Charles Petzold.
Okay, Code. What's that one about?
It's a really great book for understanding the fundamentals
The fundamentals. Okay.
of how computers work, like at the most basic level.
So it's not about a specific programming language.
Not really. It's more about
The big picture.
the big picture, exactly.
Okay, Code. I have to check that one out. What else?
Well, if you're interested in learning Python,
Python. Yeah, that's a popular one.
it is. And it's supposed to be.
Relatively easy to learn. Relatively easy. Okay.
There's a great book called Python Crash Course.
Python Crash Course. That sounds a little,
Intimidating.
a little intimidating. Like, I'm going to crash.
Don't worry, it's a really gentle introduction.
Gentle. Okay. So it's a good one for beginners.
It is. It walks you through everything step by step.
Okay, Python Crash Course. What about
What about JavaScript?
your JavaScript? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the language of the web.
it is.
So if you want to build websites,
You need to know JavaScript.
you need to know JavaScript.
There's a classic book called Eloquent JavaScript.
Eloquent JavaScript. That sounds pretty fancy.
It is a little bit fancy, but it's a really good book.
Okay, so those are your top 3 book recommendations
They are for beginners.
for beginners. Okay,
Mhm.
so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've talked about interactive platforms, video courses, boot camps, mobile apps, AI-powered assistants, books, podcasts, even VR and AR.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot to take in, but I think the main takeaway is that
Learning to code is easier than ever.
easier than ever. So it's not just for
It's not just for the tech elite anymore.
anyone can learn
Anyone can learn, yeah.
if you're willing to.
Put in the time and effort.
Put in the time and effort, and if you
Want
find
the right resources.
find the right resources for you.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
No one size fits all. So if you're feeling inspired, if you're ready to dive into the world of code,
Just do it.
just do it.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. Find something that interests you and
Just start learning.
just start learning. Because coding
A
is
superpower.
a superpower. Yeah.
And anyone can learn it.
Anyone can learn it. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start coding.
The world needs more coders.
The world needs more coders. That's right.
Yeah.
And we need more people who can use code to
solve problems.
solve problems to make the world a better place.
Exactly.
So happy coding, everyone.
Happy coding. If you